Thanks for being here today. I saw some of the pictures from last night. Looked like a pretty decent event. I wish I came in a little bit earlier. But I'm really excited to talk to you about Twitter today and talk about a shift that we're seeing. The shift is really one of culture, and it's one that directly relates to marketing. And it's a shift in which I think we're all feeling right now that the world is kind of kicked into a higher gear, like a higher, faster pace of change than we've ever imagined. If you think about just moments in history, like the first man landing on the moon, or the Berlin Wall falling, or a single person stopping a tank in Tiananmen Square, these were moments in time that journalists were embedded covering these stories, crafting the message, working with news organizations, and really just giving these stories to the people to absorb. And if you just fast forward just a few years, moments like Arab Spring or the elections here in the US or the birth of the royal baby, these stories are actually reported on the inside out. There are people on the ground sharing their view. In the case of President Obama, it was his own picture that he actually sent out first via Twitter before he even accepted the presidency when he won this last term. Or the royal baby. This was actually tweeted out first before it was announced in any other forum. So they announced the baby. And here is what my tweet deck looked like the second that happened, and which is probably what our emails look like and what our days feel like. Floods of information. And everybody wants to be the first. So there's your typical first, your people that, like Megan here. Did anyone hear a baby cry? I think it was all the other babies in the world. Feeling inadequate today. My favorite one that I don't put on paper is Royal Baby, best stripper name ever. That was a good tweet that came out. And then, of course, it's this giant conversation, and brands such as Pampers, who have a strong right to talk about, the fact that every little boy or girl is a prince or princess, and have a really beautiful, emotional video that kind of draws you in. Or, Coca-Cola celebrating the royal baby, giving a toast. And Oreo, who's also known for their savviness, preparing the royal bottle service. So, what we're seeing more and more is that, just in general, forget about marketing, life is just a series of these now moments that are hitting us. They're coming faster. The Super Bowl, for example, when the lights went out this year, the conversation on TV stopped, but there were 231,000 tweets per minute happening on Twitter. And of course, the now canonical moment of real-time marketing, the famous Oreo, you can dunk in the dark moment happened. But really, this happens every day. And we really tried to think about why does it happen on Twitter? How do we design our service in the future to make sure that it's about these now moments? And we really describe ourselves with three simple words, which is Twitter's live. And what do we mean by that? If you're witnessing an event, whether it's a really joyful event or something like the Boston bombing and the pursuing manhunt, you'll talk to people and they say, I've been watching it on Twitter. I'm watching it on Twitter. The same vernacular they use for TV. It's public. So from the very beginning of Twitter, you didn't have to follow someone to see their tweets and vice versa. So it's a giant public platform for discussion, and it's conversational. So the birth of 140 characters, the fact that it's really easy to create a quick snippet of information and respond to anyone on the platform because it's public and open, causes some tremendous moments. So I'm going to give one other quick story that kind of pulls it all together. Did anyone here see this? Nick Wallenda from the Flying Wallendas. This was an amazing moment, right? So history here, Nick Wallenda's family was a pretty famous group of stunts and acrobat daredevils. His grandfather actually died on a stunt walking over from one building to another, and it was caught on camera. He thought it was a great idea to go do this over the Grand Canyon. So Discovery got involved, and notice the hashtag Skywire up there. If you haven't seen it, I'll play just a few seconds of it. So let's hold your breath and take a listen.
Thank you, Jesus, for this beautiful view.
How's that dust on there right now?
Oh, it's all right.
Okay.
No net, no harness.
Praise you, God. Praise you, Jesus.
Okay, so I think he was thanking the right person. What happened was, the moment this happened on air, there were 1 million tweets. Okay, so 1 million tweets talking about this, which is a large volume. The impressions that those tweets actually turn into is now a metric that you can measure through Nielsen. It's a rating to actually measure the reach of tweets about television and the velocity. But more importantly, it was the conversation. So people were talking about lots of things. They were really impressed at his heroism, but more impressed that he was wearing dad jeans. So this was like the #1 topic of conversation. Like, whatever happened to capes and flair and bedazzling and jewels, and he was wearing dad jeans. And Seth Meyers, rightly so, said, "Thank you, Jeanses." that was probably the best tweet of the night. But it was this giant public open conversation about a moment that was happening. And then Lee Jeans, who has every right to talk about dad jeans, says, denim preferred by Cowboys, rock stars, and Nick Wenda, Skywire. And this can only happen on a platform like Twitter because of its live, public, and conversational nature. So the way we talk about Twitter is it's the shortest distance between you and your interests. And you are represented by your handle, your symbol, and your interests are really described mostly in hashtags. We can infer your interests by who you follow. That saying, you are what you eat. On Twitter, you are what you tweet. So you can literally, based on what people are tweeting, identify real-time intentions, what they're doing in the moment. And hashtags we really think about as almost like a campfire that people gather around to talk about any given conversation. So we were born mobile. When we first started, it was an SMS service. We had mobile service before we even thought to build a website. And it was originally a sketch by Jack Dorsey, which was about the intersection of messaging, like your AIM or MSN Messenger, and SMS. And the whole idea behind 140 characters is we wanted it to go through one message and not break between SMS texts globally. So a tweet can really degrade gracefully between the highest definition screen all the way down to a feature phone. And when we look at the user behavior of people on mobile on Twitter, it just means more engagement in every way that we measure it. They retweet more, they reply more, they favorite more, they create more original tweets, they send more pictures. And it makes sense because it's not about what you do on Twitter, it's about what you do. And it's become the first screen for many people. So when you take a look at populations like New York, Sao Paulo, or Tokyo, you can literally map tweets and see population density. The other cool things that you can do with the data is you can take a look at languages and see, kind of where the segregation in certain cities are. You look at something like New York. It's just fascinating. You're really hearing the pulse of the planet. 215 million uniques and growing. About 400 million people come to Twitter on a monthly basis. Not all are registered, but they find out about us through the news, through TV. There was an Arbitron study recently that showed that in America, half of Americans see, read, or hear about a tweet once a day, not on Twitter. So there's massive reach outside the walls of Twitter. And it took us 3 years to hit 1 billion tweets, and now we're doing that every 2 days. So the velocity has increased just tremendously. And we look at those billions of tweets, and what I'm asking you today is to think about those as billions of moments. And these are billions of moments to engage. So to just look at a framework that we're proposing, one really that we learned from working with marketers, that are really trying to ask, what's good content on Twitter? How do I actually plan for it? It all looks so kind of spontaneous, and I could never pull that off. My legal department would never let me. What we wanted to do was really draw out a framework. And we call it planning for the moment. So the shift from setting a campaign up, getting it approved, putting the creative down, getting it legally approved, shooting it, producing it, and putting it out there, to one where it's a lot more adaptive. So I promise this will be the last chart. If you take a look at everyone's kind of media mix, everything from always on, your conversations with your customers, whoever they are, the search marketing that you're running, the conversations and relationships that you're building across Facebook and other networks where you connect with customers, all the way through those moments in time like events and sponsorships that you've planned ahead of time, you want to be associated with it. And then there's the planned frameworks, which is your product launches, your moments, and then those unplanned moments that you just really can't truly expect. We really break this down into 3 types of moments that you can start to plan for. And I'll go through these and talk a little bit about how and give some examples. So we really look at it as everyday moments, live moments, and connected moments. So everyday moments. Because Twitter is about what you're doing right now, you can learn a lot about humans. So the good news is that you can do that. The bad news is that we're all not as unique as we think we are. If you take a look at people just saying they're hungry, which happens about 20 million times a day, there's a very similar pattern, right? It's morning, when they first wake up, there's a spike. They tend not to be hungry then. A huge spike up around lunch, and then another flare up later in the evening. People tend to be less hungry when they sleep. But overall, that's what it looks like. Or people talking about like health and wellness, nutrition, healthy cooking. You see another story in humans, which is, let's just start maybe where it starts, the dip. On Friday, people care less about being healthy and nutritious, and then you see people really kicking into it Monday and Tuesday just to let themselves down again throughout the week. Or people saying that they're tired. So here's another one, which those spikes happen if we normalize this data between midnight and 2 in the morning. And a conversation erupts almost every night on Twitter about people that are tired and can't sleep. They use a hashtag sometimes like why I can't sleep at night. They blame everything. They blame taxes. They blame Twitter. But if you're a marketer that's important to, you can plan for that. So in this case, we have ZQL saying, seriously, these tweets will still be here together tomorrow. Let's go to bed together. So they're about being relevant in the moment. Or if you look at people going for a run, saying that they're going for a run, maybe their Nike Fuel Band is tweeting that they're going for a run right now, or their Fitbit is tweeting that they're going for a run. Again, you see similar patterns, but if you're a marketer listening for that, here's my example that hit me last year when my daughter first learned how to walk. She'll be 2 next week. I got her a pair of Nikes. You can guess which ones are hers. And tweeted this out, Daddy and Daughter Walk sponsored by Nike. And then within minutes, Nike tweets back to me, and they say, make sure she doesn't make a run for it in those kicks. You might not be able to catch up. It's on brand, it's personalized, and we see brands like Nike doing this more and more in the form of art. Like they're literally creating these beautiful print-like ads with users' handles and motivational statements and sending it out. We're seeing B2B marketers doing this as well. They're surrounding moments like conferences like Dreamforce, capturing quotes, capturing stats that they really love, and building beautiful infographics and tweeting those out instantly, and just becoming part of that conversation. Holidays are moments to connect. So a moment like Easter, you can plan for. So if you're Doritos and you have access to a mariachi band, which I think Doritos has, they used Vine, our 6-second video service, to play Name That Tune. Anyone know that tune? Boom. I have no prize for you, but that's great, great. So another way to take a look at everyday moments is to listen to the conversation and then see how you can add value. And I'll give an example in the home improvement category, but this really applies to anyone that has a category of interest that they're associated with. So by looking at Twitter's data, Lowe's realized that people were actually, on Tuesdays, there was a spike in people talking about what they wanted to do that weekend. And then on Friday, they were talking about the materials they need, the tools they needed. On Saturdays, there were a lot of curses and frustration because people were screwing up their projects and asking questions and advice. And then on Sunday, they were sharing pictures of their finished projects, their finished rooms. So Lowe's decided to take all of those moments of really frustration. How do I get past this obstacle? And they created a series called Lowe's Fix in 6, which is almost 100 vines now that all detail these little moments that you maybe can't get past when you're doing home improvement. And the response is amazing. People are thanking them. They're saying, my mind was blown. If someone thanks you for your ad, that's typically pretty good. And on Twitter, we really believe that the ad and the content are the exact same thing. So we need to make sure that you're adding value. When we measure the effectiveness of this, what we see is these moments matter. When people engage, there's a higher awareness, there's a higher purchase intent. And I think it's kind of hard to argue that people that engage with an advertisement are valuable, but we're really starting to quantify it in many ways. The second type of moments are live moments. So there's all sorts of live moments that brands can either plan for or happen in the world that you want to surround yourself with. And those moments can focus on conferences, those moments can focus on sporting events, or other events in the world. So, I think we've all seen this event now. This is the Red Bull Stratus jump, which was an amazing feat, the highest and longest free fall ever from space. The moment it happened, there were 3 million tweets. So just a massive amount of conversation. But if you're another marketer that maybe wants to take this moment and make it your own, like let's say Slim Jim, you can do that. So Slim Jim decided they wanted to do the world's shortest free fall ever. So if you haven't seen it, it's equally impressive. Wait for it. Boom. I'll do it one more time. World's shortest free fall ever. So they didn't have to invest the months in training, and they didn't have to get certified by NASA and go through many, many, many expenses, but they pulled it off. Or you take something like a Champions League game, where at the finals there were 6 million tweets that occurred. Brands that have sponsorships are talking about it. Others really wanted to be more creative and give you a format that would really impact. So the idea of instant replays on Twitter is something that we're starting to see more and more of. Heineken decided to do this with finger puppets in Brazil. So you don't know the outcome, but you know the combinations that can occur. You know the teams, you know the players. In fact, Adidas set up, for the 22 combinations of men on the pitch, what could happen. They had congratulatory tweets ready to send out. Dunkin' Donuts with the NFL also decided to do instant replays. This is hot coffee versus cold coffee, reenacting every major play. And really, they're taking the video format of Vine, and it's created this kind of artisan, creative community around it, where we have these stars popping up and people that really wouldn't have been creative in other parts of their lives, really tapping into this awesome culture. And then there are sponsorships. There are some really kind of large-scale sponsorships, like AT&T with American Idol, where they want to bring Twitter into the sponsorship. They want to bring it on Twitter, and they also want to bring it on TV. So for the first time now, you can see things like the voice of the people, like the Greek chorus on television. Do you agree with the judges? I heard you had Paula last night here. Is that true? Yeah. Wow. So you could have told her that you agreed, that you disagreed, or any other statement you wanted to say. And when we measure this, the reason why marketers are doing this is because it actually supplements your sponsorships. It takes sponsorships that you typically spend a lot of money on for that association, and it increases it. On average, we see 22% increase. So the last type of moments are connected moments, and I'll take a moment to talk about really Twitter and TV. We've got a very special relationship with television. When we measure the conversation that happens, 95% of the public conversation about television is happening on Twitter today. And so much so that Nielsen has recently launched the Nielsen Twitter TV rating, which is, if you think about the reach as one axis of television, and that's your GRPs, your TRPs, the other axis is engagement, and that's measured by people tweeting about, responding, and actually seeing tweets about a show. So that just launched this week, actually. And we think it creates an interesting opportunity for marketers to take a look at really a 4-quadrant system and say, what are those shows with maybe lower reach but extremely high engagement that I want to be part of? Or what are those shows with really high reach and really high engagement that I can do something spectacular with? So this just launched, and we're really excited to see how it takes off. When you take a look at the data, so this is the data visualization of NBA Finals, and what you're going to see is frame by frame, and this is real data, it's not fancy Keynote, 1% of the population talking about this game, and the axis of time is on the right. And what you'll see is, in real time, 80% of all of our impressions are delivered in the first hour. So it truly is a live platform. What's really cool about this is those that maybe weren't watching but should have been watching, maybe you're interested in the sport or players or the game, but you're not following ESPN or the NBA, we can actually find those people and deliver a tweet to them. So this year, we actually bought a company called Bluefin, And what Bluefin does is measure and analyzes the TV conversation on Twitter. So now what we can do is, using that technology, find people that are watching a commercial based on the content that they're watching, and we can find them on Twitter, within minutes or within hours. And we think it's the beginning of a true second screen experience that we've all been looking for as marketers, one with scale, one where people are actually talking about TV, talking about your commercials, and allows you to deliver more of the conversation. You can give calls to action. You can drive to local offers. You could day part and figure out, if you're a restaurant, what's a breakfast, lunch, and dinner solution. Or, more importantly, you can continue the conversation that ends on TV, and it just actually starts on Twitter. So we started a program earlier this year called Amplify, where now we've got partnerships with around 35 different leagues, networks. We just recently announced one with the NFL to do instant replays on Thursday nights. With the NBA Finals, basically, if you're a fan but you're not watching and you follow this account, NBA, you can set it to a mobile alert, and every time something really awesome happens, it hits your phone. So we started this with the March Madness. We've done this now with about 10 different types of sporting events and shows like Top Gear on BBC, the MTV Movie Awards. All those moments that were actually happening, we're bringing to you on Twitter, and we're giving advertisers a really creative palette to become part of the conversation. So we've seen some really awesome custom creative 3-6-second spots right behind a really amazing play that happens. So it's about amplifying these connected moments. But the other thing we're seeing with TV is designing for connections. So here's a commercial from KFC.
Yeah, good call.
Love this stuff.
Yeah, totally. I kind of wolfed mine down.
What's the matter?
I think I ate the bones. I think I ate the bones. I ate the bones! I ate the bones!
Settle down.
I ate the bones!
KFC original recipe, now available
So,
without the bone. Freshly
product
prepared
launch
white or
with
dark
with
meat.
a catchy hashtag. What they saw instantly were people are actually using Vine and recreating the commercial. So here's one.
I love chicken. I hate they bones. Throw they bones in the trash.
And this was
Only
happening
son.
at such a high rate that they turned it into a contest quickly. And they started an I Ate the Bones contest. And then they had hundreds more entries. People that were recreating the commercial for them.
Let me get the bone in. I'm about to tear this KFC up. I hate the bones.
I hate the bones.
With bones.
I hate the bones.
So I'm at KFC.
Chicken breast, taters,
All done.
I hate the bones.
So again, it's another example of a platform that is really ripe for customers jumping into the conversation, creating a bit of their own, and it's really important to listen and be reflexive when that happens. Our TV ad targeting product that we launched, we're seeing early results that we just released, that it can increase message association by almost 100%, purchase intent. So if you advertise on television or if you don't advertise on television, there are ways to surround the programmings, the shows, the passions that you want, and you can tell your story as well. So here's the obligatory Mad Men picture to just say that there are these new rules, and we really believe that whether you think the glory days of advertising was the 60s or 2006, before all of these giant platforms and new ways of reaching customers stemmed, we really believe that this is the most exciting time for just in-the-moment relevance. And we think that there's actually a shift from target customers or target markets to target moments. There's a behavioral economist who works at Ogilvy, Rory Sutherland, who's just fascinating. And he talks about this quite a bit, which is today, it's not about your target market, it's about the target moment. And the example that he uses that I love, I'll ask you a question. What's the #1 selling juice in the world? Orange. Yep. Until you get within a 3-mile radius of an airport, and then it's tomato juice. People love their bloodies. They love to be on their plane and drinking. It's really about the context that somebody's in. It's about what they're doing in that moment, and at any point in time, somebody expressing that need can become part of your movement. So, we think about this as everyday moments, live moments, and connected moments. And, if there's one thing that we want to help the industry do is really learn how to shift from a world where you plan campaigns for the future to where you're actually adapting in the moment. Cool. So we have some time for questions. Yes.
If you have a really visual brand, do you think the best way to engage is with the videos or also just with images on Twitter?
Yeah, so what we see is when brands use videos on Twitter, there's between a 5 and 7 times lift. And it's actually almost identical to pictures. Since the way media is expanded on Twitter, you can see an image or you can see a video, the engagement is pretty equal. What we do see, though, is when it comes down to going to a different destination, pictures actually motivate that more than video, in which you actually just stay on the experience. So if you want to link to a product, we talk about Twitter as a bridge, not an island. Like, it's about moving people from one location to another. Pictures are really effective at doing that.
We have one back here.
Hi.
Hi.
Great examples, and every time I see a presentation from Twitter, the examples are these wonderful organic moments. They're not advertised on Twitter. They're just this content they put there. I'm curious how some of those examples are amplified through advertising, or do you have cases where they didn't have that killer creative, but they used your advertising channel to support them? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, we think on Twitter you need to learn how to tweet, learn how to listen, learn how to respond. On most of these examples, there actually was a promotion that happened after the organic moment happened. Some of our advertisers use something we have called autopilot that looks for the highest resonating tweets and automatically promotes them to get additional reach. In some cases, like those keyword examples with ZQuil, we introduced keyword targeting earlier this year, where you can actually set up campaigns ahead of time, similar to search, where you can say, these are the phrases important to me, the phrases important to my brand, or moments in time that I want to be relevant, and you have the chance to be the next tweet that appears in the timeline. So it's like planning these moments of serendipity.
I have a question. Oh my God, pressure.
Did you say one more brilliant
question?
Okay, there's a lot of pressure here.
I know. I'm Heather. Hi.
Hi, Heather.
Thank you. I was curious about, we all have different size teams that we all run and people that we have. I was curious, how big is your marketing team for Twitter? And I was actually curious about the age range.
Yeah, that's a good question. So my overall responsibility at Twitter is for our research, marketing, brand teams, and agency teams that we work with together. The marketing side of the house is probably close to around 30 folks right now. And the makeup are people that are just incredibly good on Twitter. We love to bring people that are either incredibly prolific on Twitter, really responsive, or in some cases, we just had an intern that started. She was in high school and built a hack to be able to pause conversations about TV shows like Breaking Bad and shift them to a later moment in time if they weren't watching. So we brought her on and we hired her. So we look for people that naturally speak the language of the platform. And more recently, we've been bringing in a lot of really amazing people with some with very little Twitter experience and some with very relevant experience. For example, we just hired the CEO of Live Nation to come and start a commerce practice at Twitter, because we see commerce taking place through tweets on a very regular basis. We've done some really amazing things with folks like Amex, where you can sync your card and buy with a tweet. And we know there's something there. We wanted to bring experience completely outside of our walls. And it's amazing when you do that, because they allow you to talk about Twitter in ways that we're not talking to ourselves. We're really trying to talk to marketers and those folks that maybe don't use the platform today. Cool. Thank you, everyone.